All right. Thank you for having me today, guys. It's a pleasure to be here. Hopefully you guys get what you'd like out of this presentation, and we have lots of time for questions and answers. What we're going to go over today is how to exercise brain changes, a little bit of exercise prescription. We're going to move, get you moving around. Don't worry, you don't need to have a lot of space. And again, lots of time for questions. So a little bit about me. I graduated, I went to the University of Manitoba and graduated in 2011. I then moved into acute care, and I've been really fortunate that I've had the experience to work through the whole gambit. So I've moved through acute care, and I still work in private practice at the same time. So I get to see people from the beginning of their stroke to the end of the stroke. There's a bit of feedback in my mic. Is that for everyone as well?
Yes, I can hear it as well. Is your volume completely off of your computer?
Yes. Let me just try this. Is that better?
Yes, I think that's better.
Okay. All right. So just give me a little, or if that doesn't work. Okay.
Good.
So so I work primarily within the BOBAS concept, and I also do a little bit of urinary incontinence and some vestibular and concussion treatment. So a lot of it is nice because dizziness, urinary issues, they can all go hand in hand on stroke. And currently I work at Imbalance Rehab in Abbotsford, and I also do home visits as well. So looking at exercise, the Heart and Stroke Foundation recommends that you should get 150 minutes of exercise a week. It doesn't mean you need to do 5 30-minute sessions at once. You can break it up into doing, 10 minutes at a time to try and reach your goal per day. And so different types of cardio exercises can be walking, biking, interval training, swimming, boxing. I'm not sure how many of you have tried boxing before. You don't need to have a boxing bag to do it, and we're going to go over some of that when we get to our exercise portion of it because it's really fun. We also know that preventing falls is really important, especially post-stroke. And in order to do that, you need to exercise your major muscle groups. And so they suggest activating major muscle groups twice a week. And so seated resistance exercises are often the way that we get to do our strengthening activities. And so doing things like, our bicep curls are great, but I think that we're now adding in sort of bicep curls with overhead press. So we're trying to do dual task type exercises where we're exercising more than just one of your muscle groups at a time. Cycling is a great way, swimming, because that's also cardio and resistance at the same time. So sort of a bang for your buck. Rowing is also a great option as well. And then functional exercises, they're my favorite, and we're going to talk about that later on. So what should your exercise program look like? It needs to be fun, because if it's not fun, you're not going to do it. We also know from the studies that having a partner or working out in a group increases your compliance. It makes it fun for you. You're more likely to go. You also get a social aspect of it. I think there was one of the gentlemen that was speaking to, it's really hard right now for him in these COVID times because he doesn't get to see everyone. But as was mentioned, at least you get to collaborate through Zoom, and you could even do that at home, right? You could set up a Zoom session with a few of your friends, and you guys could go through the exercises together, or you could do your own program, but at least you could cheer each other on and do something. Or you could have an email where you check in and you are accountable to someone else, right? I know for myself, if I work out with someone, I'm more likely to, message them up and say, okay, I did my exercise, because I know I had to message them to tell them that I did my program. It needs to be balanced. So I think people are pretty good about doing strengthening activities, but I don't know about the cardio portion. I don't hear a lot of people say that, a lot of people will walk, but they don't really get their heart rate up there into that moderate to high intensity and balance exercises. I feel like those really get lost along the way. And it needs to have variety into it. So our body is really good at adapting. So we must always be challenging it in order to make a change. We also know that our brain needs novelty and, again, challenge in order for motor learning to occur. So I'm not sure for you how many of you have heard motor learning before, if that's a new concept to you. but it starts with motor control. So by definition, that's the process of initiating, directing, and grading purposeful voluntary movement. So if I want to be able to reach for my coffee cup, I need to have that voluntary control to be able to grab it and pick it up and not swipe the cup over. And then you have motor learning, it comes from motor control. So that's acquiring a skill through practice and assimilation to refine it, make it automatic for your desired movement. So a better way for me to say it is a repetition of the same action which develops into a habit, which is, if it's repeated frequently enough, it becomes an automatic reflex. So I no longer have to think about grading my movement in order to reach for the cup and aim for it. I can automatically reach for it and pick it up to drink it. And this is how we have neuroplasticity. So neuroplasticity is just sort of exploded in the literature and the research over the last 10 years. Before, the thought process was is you've had a stroke, you've damaged the cells in your brain, and now that's it, you're left with the residual effect. Now we know it's different. Now we know we can make changes. And so it's how we go about making those changes within the brain that really matters. And so neuroplasticity, it's the capacity of neurons and their networks to change their connections. And really where we're looking at here is in response to damage and dysfunction, and where we look to make the change is it's in response to new information and sensory stimulation. So my example here is we're going to look at this path, and the path over here on the left. So to gain a new skill, we need a whole bunch of these neurons to activate together. So the more neurons that are activated, the deeper the learning and then more ingrained these pathways become. So our path here on the left, you can see is a path that someone walks down once a day, every day, right? If I didn't walk down that path for a week, that grass is going to start to grow over again. It's not going to last very long. The path here on my right is someone who walks this path multiple times a day, every single day for weeks. If this path didn't get walked on for a week, the grass wouldn't grow over. It would still be there. So again, we're going to repetition and intensity in order to ingrain these pathways. And where this comes into play is when we're looking at gaining a new skill. So if I'm going to choose sit to stand because that's a really functional goal that a lot of people come to me with and we work on. And so if I want to make standing up easier, I don't want someone to have to help me. I don't want to have to try 3 times to get out of the chair. I just want it to be easier. I need to practice that skill multiple times throughout the day in order to ingrain those pathways so that if I don't practice it for a day or so, I don't forget it. The great thing with neuroplasticity as well is that we have what's called this neuronal echo. So if you have someone walking down the path, that second person is going to tell that person to step down the path. The middle person is going to send that signal back to the original neuron and forwards on to the next one. And it keeps going down the line. So this is how you build it up. So I'm going to send the message to you, you send it on to the next person, and then it gets sent back. So we're just really strengthening up those neurons. So with neuroplasticity and novelty, we need new experiences or new tasks, that's what novel means, to improve the structure of the existing neuronal connections, and that's going to increase their efficiency, or it can create brand new connections and pathways between the neurons. So what does it all mean? So basically the bottom line is you can create a new pathway, so we can fix the damage that's been done by a stroke, or you can shape an existing pathway, so we can refine it and we can make it better, which is going to make it easier. Repetition is the key. With perfect practice makes perfect. So we need to move in the correct way multiple times in order to build up these neuronal connections to gain a new skill. How are we doing? Are we okay, everyone? Do I got thumbs up on the screen? All right, so our summary so far, like what do you need to know out of all of that? You need to change your brain in order to change your body. Perfect practice makes perfect. Repetition, repetition, repetition with novelty. And you need to use this skill in a functional way. So when we're talking about functional ways, we are looking at, sit to stand on one leg. And so, sit to stand with 2 legs. So we need to make sure that we are using that skill in something that we do in everyday tasks in order to build that into our practice. Otherwise, I'm just doing it once and I become the path on the left that's not well walked over. So if we're looking at balance, right, I want to try and balance to make it easier to step over something, or if I want to put my pants on while standing up or pull them on, I need to practice doing that skill throughout the day. And when we're looking at it being task specific, that if I want to be able to reach for my coffee cup with my affected hand, I need to practice reaching for a coffee cup over and over again. And this is where creating goals that mean something to you is really important. So I can have a goal for you. I can say, I think that you should be able to walk faster. I look at your body and I say, there's potential there for that. But if you don't really care about walking faster, that's not an important goal to you. So it needs to be salient to you. So if you want to be able to put your hair up into a pony, so you need to be able to get both your hands up on your head and hold a pony while the other one moves the elastic around, that is an important goal. And so then we're going to work on those specific pieces to get your hands up there. So really briefly, we're just going to talk about physiotherapy post-stroke. So I had a stroke 10 years ago. Can I still improve? Yes, everyone should be nodding here, okay? There are some factors that are important here. So gains made since your stroke. So looking at how your body has responded and what return you've had since the stroke, what therapies you've had, your environment, how you've used your body. There are a lot of factors that come into that piece. Cognition. So if we have someone that doesn't have the ability to remember how you're changing the way you move, that's going to affect the amount of recovery that you can have. The environment and support. So some of the challenges that are faced are when someone lives alone, or they don't have someone that can support them with the exercise program. That can create its own challenges as well, especially when we're looking at improving balance. If you don't have someone there that can spot you or someone there that can support you to set up some of the exercises, but that's when you and your therapy team would work on making those adaptations and how you can set that up to have success for you. Also finances. With physiotherapy, there is a cost to it, but again, within your multidisciplinary team, you can work out a way to make it work for you within your financial means. And the biggest thing is motivation. You are the one that has to do the work. So you have to be the one that wants to make the change. And again, it comes back to creating goals that make sense to you. So what muscles should we be working on? All of them. However, there are a few ones that are sort of specific that we like to focus on. So a lot of the times with a stroke, depending on the extent, difficulty coming forwards, bringing your center of mass forwards over your feet can be challenging. And again, if you're, let's say my right side's affected, sorry, you can lean down to your unaffected side. That's your strong side, and typically that one is something that ends up happening. I see a lot of you guys are moving around and standing, and so in standing, you can see that this gentleman isn't really over onto his right leg there. He's mostly standing onto the left side, and so I call that a stork stand or a kickstand stand. What that's telling your brain is that you're not really using your affected side of your body. Therefore, you're not building those neurons. You're not building up those pathways to use it, and you get this same cycle of disuse happening over and over and over again. So our muscle groups that we need to focus on, so we need to focus on our shoulder blade, all of our extensors, all the things that hold us upright and not fall forward, okay? Our abdominals, I got some of those, but underneath all my cookies somewhere, all right? And your trunk and your head rotators. Those are all important for moving around, weight shifting, balance. So first, we're gonna talk about postural control. So this is the ability to sort of hold your balance using your core and your abdominal muscles, all right? So our first exercise is you're going to work to sit up tall, okay? So now I don't want to pull my shoulder blades back like this. That's not very functional and not very comfortable. But what you can see when I pull my shoulder blades, I'm thinking about pulling my shoulder blades down and back into my opposite back pockets. All right, so do that. Pull them back and let them go. Pull them back, let them go.
Megan?
Now I want you, Yes.
Do you want me to stop sharing your screen so people can see you better when you're demonstrating?
Sure. We are on to, yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Okay. So before we actually do that, I'm going to get you guys to lift. You're going to sit in your normal posture, however you sit, and you guys are going to lift your arm up and down, your unaffected arm. I want you to feel how easy it is to lift it up. I want you to see how heavy it is, what the rest of your body feels like. Okay? Now what I want you to do is I want you to think about bringing your shoulder blades back together, and then I want you to lift your arm up. Now, using your thumbs up or thumbs down, how many of you feel like your arm got a little bit lighter, a little bit freer to move when you pulled your shoulder blades back together? Okay, so we got a couple of down turns, a couple of up turns. Now, if I was there with you, we could change the way that you're moving, but mostly with up, thumb up. So the idea here is that instead of being pulled down and having to really strain to lift my arm up, I'm using my core muscles, I'm using my shoulder blade muscles in order to allow my limb to be lighter. So if any of you are gardeners, you can think about a tomato plant, right? When the tomatoes come on there, what do we do to the trunk? We stake it, right? We put on a support system to it in order to allow the branches to be stronger so they don't get pulled down. Our body works the same way. We need to build up all of our core muscles, all the muscles that give us our postural control. So this is our abdominal muscles, this is our back extensor, so it pulls us up in order to be strong within our limbs. And that's the same thing that happens with your legs as well to make it easier for walking. So the next slide will be the time to move slide. So what time are we at there? We are at 10:23.
10:23. Yeah, you have a couple more minutes. Okay. That's fine.
Okay. So we're not going to go through the flexibility exercises. I want to go through some of the cardio stuff because that's fun, and then some of the functional movement pieces, okay? So what we're going to do is you can either stand or you can sit, whatever feels most comfortable and safest for you. Please make sure that you're safe first and foremost because no one's there spotting you. We're going to go over some boxing. Okay. The idea here, the goal is we're getting in some cardio. So if your affected limb does not move very well and you're going to have to auto move it, this isn't what the focus of this exercise. We're trying to get your heart rate up, okay? So I'm going to demonstrate with one arm. I'm going to pretend that my left arm is not able to move very well. So we're going to start with a warm-up, and we are just going to go out and in, out and in. We're going to do that 10 times. Okay, if you have two arms that are able to move, you can alternate, okay? Good. Now, with your unaffected arm, we're going to pick the speed up. So we are going to be doing 20 as quick as you can. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Does anyone feel like they're starting to get their heart rate up a little bit? Yeah, okay. Okay. Now we want to add in some rotation in there. We talked about how important rotation was, so we're going to get flexibility and cardio, two things in one exercise, because I try to be as efficient as I can with my exercises, okay? So again, we're here. If you can use two hands, it's going to be alternating across your body, rotating head and trunk. If you can't use two arms, only use your one arm. So we're going across and out with the same arm if you're affected arm, okay? So warm yourself up. Make sure your elbow gets all the way extended. All right, we're back to the center and we're going fast. 20 times. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, faster, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. How's everyone feeling? I see a couple of tongue wags. I see some smiles. Yeah? Was that fun? Right? So the nice thing with cardio is that we're building up our dopamine, which is our happiness, right? That's really important. We need to have dopamine for neuroplasticity and neuroprotection as well. So getting your heart rate elevated helps all those brain changes occur as well. It's fun, and it's also protecting against another stroke. So that's a really important thing with your cardio piece to add in. And you can do this boxing with no equipment at home on your own. And you can do a whole bunch of different variations. So I'm just going to quickly run you through some of the things that I do. I teach a Parkinson's exercise class out in Langley, and we do a lot of this stuff there, okay? So you can do things if you have two arms that move. So you can do jab, jab, cross, jab, jab, cross, and you can pick the speed up and do that, okay? And if your one arm doesn't move really well, you could just move your elbow to cross, jab, jab, cross, right? We can do hooks. So we can come way around, hook, 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 hook. So I'm getting a lot of trunk rotation here. And yes, Annette, your hips are rotating around. So if I back up, my hips are rotating around as I do these rotational exercises. The jab, just my shoulders are moving forwards, okay? Because it's a straight one. Cross, my whole body is rotating around. Okay, we can do uppercuts, so we can come low and up, low and up, low and up. All right, where you can get that COVID right in the sucker there, right? So you can feel how that's moving bits of your body that may not have moved the same way before, okay? All right. And now, I'm trying to find my screen. Okay, so I'm going to screen share again. Share screen. There we go. Okay, so our take home today is, current slide. So our take home today is that use it or lose it applies to everyone. And if you want to gain a new skill, you have to challenge your body and your brain, and you have to practice it in many different ways and many times. It is possible to make gains post-stroke, but it takes a lot of work and determination. And there are also some consistent patterns that we see post-stroke. And so in order to change your body, you must change the way that you're moving it. Your exercise has to be fun, and it has to make sense for you, okay? And it needs to consist of those 4 different elements we talked about. So you need to have cardio, strengthening, flexibility, and balance. And ideally, if you can incorporate 2 of those together, that's going to be your biggest bang for your buck. And if you do seek out a physiotherapist, you need to make sure that your goals are smart and that you have a treatment plan that works for you. So this is some of my references. And here are some resources here that we can share out with you afterwards. The first one is a great website on, it has exercises, it has education on there. The next 2 are Parkinson's targeted, but a lot of the power moves can be used for stroke survivors as well. And the third one, the moderate intensity exercise videos, my colleague puts those on. She goes through 30 minutes of an exercise with you. You can do them standing or seated. They are moderate to high intensity. She has adaptations. It's fun. She's really energetic. So I highly recommend you just check those out. And there's some Tai Chi resources, yoga, and some mindfulness, which is really important in terms of managing your symptoms. This is my daughter and my husband. She's a bit older now. And now on to questions.